Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Ouroboros podcast. Ooh, moving that in closer. I'm your host. um, so, if you're following along, we are closing in on our last few episodes, including today's episode. There's only 3 left. So, wowie. Pretty impressed with the progress. Um, and good news, I have really started hunkering down and working on the minor arcana. I recently got really inspired. Um, the last market that I did, the Obscura tattoo market, I gotta say I'm just blown away. Um, good quality people there. A lot of just amazing connections, and like I said, I was just inspired. I think it was that day I came home and I just sat down and did 11 cards. I at least started 11 cards. I'm not sure if I fully finished them. But yeah. So motoring through, and for the first time in a while I'm kind of glimpsing, hey, I could finish it this year, um in which case, maybe by Christmas there'll be a deck to buy, a deck to use. That would be so wild, using my own tarot cards for readings and stuff. But hey, I'm down. I'm I love that idea. There's a lot of things that I'm like, I'm in a zone now where there's been so many positive things that have come to pass. Um Motivation's coming back. There's there's just a lot to be thankful for. Things are really turning around. I am not joking when I told you I had very bad luck before. Um, but made it through, I guess. Survived onto the other side. Very thankful for it. Um, and yeah, now I have all these beautiful opportunities opening up for me. Um, and I'm like, whew, I can finally turn my attention towards creating again, which is so, so nice. I find um, when you're so in the zone of keeping going, sort of just making sure you get by, surviving, that kind of thing, there doesn't leave a whole lot of room for you to put your energy into creative outlets, into things for enjoyment. You're pretty drained. So I'm really glad to be here, because especially for anyone listening or watching, it's like you are getting the, I guess, better side of things. And for that matter, I can commit the time and energy into making these videos and talking about things that I love. So I'm so, so appreciative, very grateful that we've gotten to this point. I guess the royal we, I suppose. But yeah, you're included too. I'm This is an outreach of luck, love, support. Um but yeah, before we dive in, as if I haven't already taken up 5 minutes of your time, um Another market that I went to this past weekend, I um, I made a trade with a another vendor. Um, Shout out Gloria, and um, I got an amazing car freshener. Definitely check out Glorified by Society. Um, Love that thing. But in trade, I gave her one of my tarot journals. So I've got one of those bad boys here. I forget if I've talked about it on the podcast before, but I do have these tarot journal things. I definitely have. I think it was literally episode 1. Um, but if you're even just starting out to read the tarot and you want it to become a more regular practice, um, at the time of me filming it, it is a new moon, I want to say. Either it's a new moon now or it's coming up. But um, yeah, so I designed it based on my reading patterns. Um, so generally, I read a couple times a month, every new and full moon, do a full spread. I take into consideration the sign that the moon's in and what time during the week, like what day of the week, and the affiliations that that day of the week might have with specific values or colors. And of course, all of that stuff, like you don't have to look it up elsewhere. It's all in the book. There's an index in the back. And this method of writing it out helped me exponentially to get to know my cards, to get to know my own reading style. I've been doing it for probably like 3 years now, and the amount of information that comes through is crazy. But also, it's really nice to kind of take a moment to yourself every couple of weeks to just check in. Um, so I have been considering posting that on Etsy. Um, but for the meantime, it's at least posted on my website, and I'll bring it to markets. Don't have markets coming up just yet, but I'm sure there will be other opportunities. So, if that's something that you're interested in as well, I mean, if you're watching a tarot podcast, chances are you might be interested in tarot. I don't know. But yeah, definitely check it out on my website. It's pretty sick. Anyways, this episode, if you are familiar with the cards that I have designed and you're watching on YouTube, you may see my outfit and be like, there's only one card in this deck so far that has dark purple and black colors in it. An aubergine type of purple that Megan would definitely have trouble finding clothes to match in their closet. You would be right. I did I did only have a few things. One was a formal gown. Wasn't about to bring that out. Thought about it, but figured this homemade knit vest would do. It's got the colors in it, and I made it myself. So we're sporting that despite it rising in temperature. I will do my best to stay cool in it. So the Hierophant, like I said, only card in the deck. It's time to paint a visual. If if you're new to this episode structure, anyways, the card itself, I have the Hierophant listed on the side, so you know who he is. um, purple, blacks in the background. I really like these colors together, and I think they accent the little blackberries that I've included really well. And the key feature of this card would be the praying hands. Um, if you know about the Hierophant, or you've listened in to previous episode with the High Priestess, then you know that the Hierophant is um, the counterpart to the High Priestess. He's the priest, the High Priest, Hierophant. Uh, I don't know why I paired that up, but yeah. So where the High Priestess is very connected to the spiritual world in a way of intuition and sort of like in the mind emotional connections, like parts of her spirit are um linked that way. The Hierophant is more a grounded base for this connection. Um, the Hierophant talks about into institutions and structure, and it's sort of a more disciplined side to the your own spiritual connections and stuff. The things that are keeping you grounded and um, helping you to understand things through a set flow of information. And that works for some people, and the elements of the High Priestess might work better for other people. The idea of counterparts, as I've said in previous episodes, is having a balance of both, whatever that looks like for you. Again, going back to the yin yang imagery, um, if you have like a focus on one, there's always got to be a little blip of the other, just to keep it in balance. So, yeah, the Hierophant is sort of this counterpart where the High Priestess is very in your head potentially. The Hierophant's going to ground you. Um, I know the Hierophant also has aspects of um, your like a father figure. Um, Again, it kind of draws on these traditionalized like masculine energies um, of like stability and um, like I guess in a way longevity sort of, as opposed to like this flowing energy that we see with the High Priestess. Um, the Hierophant tends to give this energy of like holding true to something, like sticking your feet down and laying roots. Um, so being very strong in your convictions is an element of the Hierophant that I see a lot. And it's interesting because the Hierophant is actually the card that links most with Taurus. And Taurus are known for being stubborn. Um, so you can kind of see like the lines that connect as to why that zodiac sign might be linked up with the elements of the Hierophant card. So, going back to the imagery of the card that I've included um, through my own design, I really, really love the deep purple and the black together. There's like this element of depth, there's beauty to it. It's almost like a calming pair still, but there's an aspect of like royalty with the purple, I want to say. Royalty might not be the best word for it, but there is a sort of this elevation because there's a lot of associations with its color and its visual richness to um, sort of a higher level of something. Um, we have seen it in the past with like an association to the royal sort of structures. But in this, I thought it was like a really nice pair because there's sort of that idea of um, this hierarchy, which the Hierophant does illuminate for us. Again, very similar, like I said, to the High Priestess, where the Hierophant and the High Priestess are viewed as like on a priest level and therefore like closer to God than the common folk. So there's a bit of a separation. Um, and yeah, the purple just kind of carries this um, intensity and that elevation. The black that I included for a good portion of this card, even though it's not a dark card, there's still a lot of connections to the unknown, which um, I thought the dark purple and black kind of like pair well together. Not to mention, they are extremely complementary to the little blackberries, which I included. And interestingly enough, we're going back to the more Christian roots, I suppose, because you know it always sneaks in. But yeah, the blackberries were, from what I gather and research, uh, the plant of that was incorporated into the thorns that were made into a crown during Christ's crucifixion. So there is sort of this association to the bridging from one state to another, and yeah, there's some associations as well. Interestingly, a blackberry tattoo uh, has the it's tied to the meaning of like family. This connection to family, and um, it comes about in like a very spiritual way. So I found that interesting, um, as like an inclusion. To clarify as well, the discovery of the BlackBerry um, being a tattoo was like I didn't even expect it. That was like an afterthought kind of thing. But yeah, and then of course the obvious. I feel the hands praying in the card itself. Um, when we think about a priest or the Hierophant, it is a very structured image of what connection to the beyond looks like, and for a large amount of people, a vast amount of people, one would say, that's what prayer looks like. It is a connection to a higher power, the other side, the unknown, um, and yeah, I felt like that was a very clear depiction of that kind of connection. And maybe the regularity and the structure of like more organized forms of religion. Obviously, if you pull the Hierophant card, this doesn't mean go to church, um, but it can mean like ground yourself, uh, really reflect on the time and energy that you're putting into the institutions of your choice, and like consider how connected you may feel to said institutions. Um, I mentioned the connection to um, family as well with the blackberries. Um, this can, that can be sort of a structure or an institution, quote, but like some kind of structure in your life that you can look back on and find this stability, um, something that keeps you grounded there. And while the blackberry symbolizes family, in certain contexts that I understand now, I think it works well to kind of link us back to this idea that the Hierophant can also um, bring up the sort of this divine connection to people within your family. I know because it's seen as a more masculine card, it may link to um, your father or your father's side. It doesn't have to, though. This can just, like I said, generally be in connection to um, your family as a structured system of support or um, whatever. But um, yeah, in the way that the high priestess, uh, in her reverse, had like a disconnect, I suppose, the Hierophant in reverse also has this loss of stability in certain things, or it may be sort of a choice potentially on your own part of deciding that it's time to break away from the structures that you once knew. And that brings about the element of the unknown as well that we've included with the black space on the card. Um, so sometimes it can be risky, as I say every episode, not every episode, but quite frequently. Really consider the other cards that are coming out in your reading, because they will give you a lot more sort of padding on the information that is delivered. And yeah, you'll be able to know, especially if the Hierophant comes out reverse, sort of what area of your life um, might be becoming a little less grounded, and what ways you might be invited to break away from the mold that um, you've had structured for you, or you've gotten comfortable with. So little things to consider, but that wraps up our episode for this week. Thank you so much for listening or watching, um, and I will see you next week. Bye.